It's Jody with All About the Harvest, where I teach you how to grow, use, and preserve your harvest. And today I have my friend Julie with me, and we are going to tell you a fun little story about the first time that I canned pumpkin. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. You'll learn a couple things about pumpkin and canning pumpkin along the way. This happened in 2013. I had already water bath canned some different foods, and I thought it would be a great way to preserve my pumpkin. I loved pumpkin seeds, but I had never actually made anything from pumpkins. So I decided, well, let me start canning some pumpkin. And I didn't know how much one pumpkin would yield because I never made anything with pumpkin before aside from seeds. So I reached out to a friend and I said, hey, do you know anywhere that I can get some pumpkins? It was after Halloween, so I knew that they would be less expensive. And she's like, sure, I have a farmer that I can get some from. And she said, how many do you want? And I said, I don't know, anywhere between 5 and 50. So she brought me 50 pumpkins. And
jack-o'-lantern pumpkins.
Yes, jack-o'-lanterns. So not pie pumpkins, which I didn't know at the time there was a difference. And since we're talking about that, so the difference between a pie pumpkin and a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, do you want to tell them?
First of all, their size. So your pie pumpkins are smaller and your jack-o'-lantern pumpkins are larger. Pie pumpkins actually are more dense in the inside. It's got more meat. And they're grown and made more of a squash than they are a gourd. So your jack-o'-lantern pumpkins are harder and not exactly easy to make into canned pumpkins, but it's doable.
I got jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. I did not get pie pumpkins. So I had big ones. None of them were carved. They were all, none of them were carved. So they're all whole pumpkins. So this is where the story gets fun. So I have 50 pumpkins. I reach out to Julie and I'm like, hey, do you want to help me can pumpkins? I didn't know how to do that. So we looked it up and we found out that you have to actually cube them. They can't be pureed like you would get in a grocery store. So that's one thing to know. If you're looking at canning pumpkins, that you actually need to make sure you're following a safe, tested, and approved recipe. And one of the things that you need to do is you need to cube them. So I had Julie come over and help. Now at this point, and you also need a pressure canner. Mm-hmm. So because they're low acid, you can't water bath can these. And I didn't have a pressure canner at that time. So Julie came over with her pressure canner and some jars. I had some jars, and then we just started getting right into it. And we found out really quickly that that I was probably in over my head. Mm-hmm. So when you came over, what happened?
So when I came over, not really, I don't know if I actually knew how many pumpkins were sitting there in front of us. I think it was more of, I have this many. And I'm like, okay, so it's not going to be a couple hours. This is going to be a full out event. And it was. So we went to work and we wanted to use obviously as much as we could out of it. So we had your nephew there as well, who was doing the seed process.
He was 6 when it happened. He was a very young little guy, and he was really interested in just helping out. He was just a really good kid. And so, like you said, we had him, taking out the seeds from the inside, which he thought was really fun. And Julie was cutting, so she had mentioned we had this little assembly line going. She was cutting the pumpkins, and you had mentioned earlier that the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins are thicker.
They're thicker and harder, yes, so they're more dense. So I literally had blisters on my hand. I was using the big butcher knife to cut them, and then of course we had to peel the skins off because you don't use the skins on it. So yeah, there was some battle scars.
there was. So
and then Jody was.
I remember steaming, so I think I was managing the oven and the stove. So
yes.
We steamed some, we had some on the stove because you have to get them softer. And then we also, like you had mentioned, we realized, okay, there's a lot. So we started baking some as well. And then in the baking, we actually did half. And then I think it was more managing my nephew who was little, and then
Doing the
jar
stove.
prep and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. So you were basically like the cutter. You had blisters, and then I was like managing my nephew and kind of getting all the rest of the stuff going. And I didn't realize, because I hadn't pressure canned at that point, I didn't realize how long the pressure canning process takes. So things getting, venting and getting warm, and then actually the process. And I don't remember, but I think these were like a 60-minute process.
Yeah, it was a long. It's not just 60 minutes from front to end. It's you have to bring up your pressure, hold your pressure for 60 minutes, and then obviously let it cool down to open up the pressure canner. So, and that's when we realized.
Yeah, we need more. We need another pressure canner. We need another pressure canner, and we realized we were going to run out of jars, and we needed more jars. So I called up my sister, who obviously was my nephew's mom, and said, "Hey, can you go and buy me a pressure canner, and can you get me some jars and rings and lids and stuff like that?" So she came over, because I had to give her the money. So she came over and she saw what we were doing. We weren't in this house. We were in my other house, the house before this. And there was literally, there was pumpkin everywhere. We had a table, like a temporary table, like a one that you would use for a rummage sale or a church get together, whatever. One of those were up against one of my walls in my small kitchen. We had stuff everywhere. Pumpkin was everywhere. And we were doing this for quite a while. She came in and she just
had a blank stare.
Yeah, you can say it. You tell what she looked like when she came in.
So we were in our moment, and we had been doing it for a while, so we were in our rhythm, and we were just kind of doing our thing with all this pumpkin everywhere. And she walked in and literally stopped when she walked in the door, blank stare, and was like, "What is going on?" And straight faced and very serious, "We're canning pumpkins."
This is normal. This is just normal. But we need you to get us.
But we're at the point now where we need to have more supplies. So you are a runner. Thank you very much.
So I found out here's the pressure canner I need. It was at Fleet Farm. Here's the price of it, and then get these size jars.
It was a double one, so we could do
two
stacks instead of a single layer, so we could go through this quicker. So
so we did that.
We did a little bit of research to know where it was, how much it was.
Yep. And so she ran and brought it back, and then we were like, "Oh, we need to eat. So could you run to Little Caesars and just get us these $5 pizzas, because we don't have time. Clearly, we couldn't cook anything because our stove was full. And could you just get us some pizzas?" So we were shoving pizza in. We got stuff everywhere. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And then one of the other things was, after this was all done, I had cleaned up the kitchen, gotten everything put away. And then literally months later, I found pumpkin stuck to my kitchen island, or whatever you want, my kitchen counters, under them. I think I even had some, within that first week, I had some on the wall. Pumpkin was everywhere. Yes. It was everywhere. But it was fun. I learned a lot. I was very appreciative that you came over and helped, spent your entire day, even though you had no idea what you were getting yourself into. It was actually funny. So
it's a very dear memory. That was the breaking point of, I think, you falling in love with everything canning, because now you've done both worlds, and you didn't explode anything.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's a good point. So one of my fears with canning, pressure canning, and which is a lot of people's fear, is that you're afraid that the pressure canner is going to blow up. And, I didn't really have time to do any research on pressure canning beforehand. I mean, I had Julie, who had pressure canned for many, many years. And so she was the one who basically gave me a quick tutorial on here's what's going to happen. And then, you were there, obviously, you're, making sure I know how to do things. Mm-hmm. And then before she left, now, You were there all day. She had to leave. I mean, it was like, I think at night, like
It was
9 or something at
It
night.
was after midnight. I mean, it was late.
It was,
Because
okay.
I remember my husband being very upset
that
that it was more than just a few hour expedition.
Okay, so you left, and then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, here's what you have to do. Because I'm like, I got to keep going. Because I had so many pumpkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kept going, and I felt comfortable because you had kind of taught me how to do things, so I had learned, which was great.
And we had done then by then multiple batches, so
Yeah.
then you realized how
Yeah.
to do it and the safety of it. So.
Yeah. But the other thing I ended up doing, because I quickly realized, I think we realized, that there was so much, that one pumpkin yielded so much. And I'm going to tell you how much it yielded in this video, because I do have what it yielded. But I quickly realized, okay, we have to do other things with pumpkin. So I decided to, obviously, well, we talked about the pumpkin seeds. I decided to dehydrate pumpkin, so you can actually dehydrate pumpkin. So I did that, and then I started borrowing a bunch of people's dehydrators, so that I had dehydrators going, so I could dehydrate pumpkin, and then you can actually turn dehydrated pumpkin into pumpkin flour, which I also did. So then you grind it down. So I would put it in my Cuisinart grinder, and then I would my Cuisinart food processor. So I would grind it down, so then I had pumpkin flour that you could use to bake with. And then I also had the pumpkin, I still kept the dehydrated pumpkin into like chips.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up, so those you could grind down later if you wanted into the flour, or what I did with some just a couple of years ago, I made pumpkin wine with them. So I rehydrated them and made pumpkin wine with that same pumpkin. So that was interesting. So I made pumpkin flour, like pumpkin chips. I made pumpkin wine from it. Obviously, we had canned pumpkin from it, and we had pumpkin seeds. Mm-hmm. So like, try to not let them go to waste. I gave some away to other people, but we never ended up getting through more than I think it was 8. So I wanted to just tell you what we actually got from the 8 pumpkins. So here it is. So a little less than 8 pumpkins can get you 47 pints and 14 quarts of canned pumpkins, plus 22 cups of pumpkin puree. I forgot, we made pumpkin puree. So we actually pureed it, and I froze it. Right. So we pureed it up, and then we froze it into 2-cup bags. So we forgot about that. Yep. So 22 cups of pumpkin puree and a whole lot of seeds. So after I posted this, then I made the dehydrated pumpkin chips and then the pumpkin flour, which I don't have what that yielded, but from the 8 pumpkins, that's what I got from that. And I think I probably did a couple more pumpkins after that. And maybe that's what I did with the dehydrated.
And I'm thinking the puree came from the ones that we roasted.
Yeah, I think what it was getting to the point that there was so much pumpkin, and then it was like, okay, what else to do? And so I did the pumpkin puree, and I froze it, and I put it in freezer Ziploc bags, and then I put them in there, and then I laid them flat so you could get a bunch of them, together. So that was another thing that we did. Yeah. So some of the stuff that I made with mine, obviously, like the normal, the pumpkin bars, the pumpkin bread, the pumpkin pie, of course I made those. But I've also done coffee with a pumpkin, like a pumpkin latte with it. I've actually made dog treats for my sister's dog, some natural dog treats with it. So those are a couple different things that I've made with that pumpkin as well. Tell how you
use it to make like pumpkin bars or smoothies. I've done that, or pies. Mm-hmm. I've done pies with it. So anytime, instead of having to go to the store and buy the pumpkin puree in the can, I just pull out a jar.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as what you buy in the store, except for what's in it, how it's made, and and the great thing I think about this is, again, not to waste anything. So it does show that when you do have Halloween and you have your jack-o'-lanterns and you put it out there for a day, whatever, for your festivity, you can then use that to make it into food.
Yeah, now as a clarifier, I wouldn't use a carved pumpkin, right? So like more like one that you're setting out like for decoration for the fall or whatever that isn't carved, then yeah, use that. You wouldn't want it carved and then try to use it. I wouldn't do that.
The pumpkin that you buy in the store in the can is not really pumpkin.
Yep.
If you read your labels, it's actually a butternut squash. And they do that because it's a sweeter taste. So you can use squash and canned squash this way as well, and use it as pumpkin puree and make your pumpkin bars and pumpkin pies and all things pumpkin, and people won't even know.
Yep. I did know that actually, but I thought it would be good for us to tell you. And again, you are going to want to follow safe, tested, and approved methods for canning pumpkin. So you can go to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, or you can check to see if Ball has any recipes for canning pumpkin, or squash. You just need to make sure you're following the safe recipes. I know we had mentioned canning it for 60 minutes, but I think that might be for pints. I'm not sure. So if I were to can again, I would always look at the most up-to-date recipe, because they do change. So we canned this in 2013. If I were to can it again, I would look at the most up-to-date version of pumpkin recipe, and I would follow that, because frequently they will test different recipes and things, and they will change them based on the research that they're finding. So canning is a scientific process, and you need to follow those safe, tested, and approved processes and procedures. So make sure you're doing that before you start canning. I would say, as a takeaway, you don't need 50 pumpkins to can. I would never do that again. I would say, yes, if you can do your pie pumpkins, that would be great. But a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, like you had mentioned, it's still completely possible to can and not go to waste. And you probably only need whatever you have for your pumpkins outside. So if you have one or two, that would be completely fine. I mean, again, 8 of them yielded 47 pints and 14 quarts, plus a bunch of other stuff, 22 cups of puree. So that's 8. So maybe just start with one if that's what you're into. We have a tendency to go big. I completely underestimated what one pumpkin yielded. So if nothing else, take away from this that you don't need that many pumpkins to start canning. Just start with one or two, and go from there. Yeah. And it's always fun to do it with a friend. So if you have a friend that would be willing to do it with you, and then you can share, right? I shared my pumpkins. She shared her time and knowledge and her actual work. So that was nice. And then she got pumpkins, and I got pumpkins, and we have this wonderful memory that we
lasting memories forever that we forever laugh over.
Yeah, when we get together, sometimes we think about this and we just laugh. And now there's this running joke with my husband that even though he wasn't with me at the time that happened, he kind of has this little joke about the two of us, we never do anything small. It's always in big quantities.
It's always large.
Yep. Because we want to preserve things. We want to save them, right?
We do.
We love it. So.
We do.
So I just wanted to share this story with you, hopefully get to know me a little bit more, and in the process, learn about canning pumpkin. Again, this is Jody with All About the Harvest, where I teach you how to grow, use, and preserve your harvest. Until next week, happy canning.